I'm going to introduce or reintroduce 6 people to you. Quick look at the 6 people. Once again, whom do you think these people are and what is it that they do? Social work, NGO aunties, NGO uncles, activists, bang on. And I don't think that any prize is for guessing why you said what you did. You were taken by their look, the way they look, right? Let me tell you something very interesting. 2 of the people behind me have nothing to do with social activism, have nothing to do with being NGO uncles or aunties. There are 2 people who are old age people who are residents of my old age home in Delhi. They've been abandoned by their loved ones, beaten black and blue, and left to perish. Today, they're happy residents in my home, and they're completely away from any kind of activism. So I'm sure you guys are guilty of judging these people by the way they look, right? But I'm going to give you another chance. Have a look at the next 6 or 7 people who crop up behind you. If I were to ask you, what do you think these people do? It will take you probably the whole day because all of them do something completely different from the others. But there's one thing that binds them together, one thing that they do in common, and that is something that I like to call their social bone. Each one of these people is a social activist, doing something or the other to make the world a better place. Though they're absolutely mind-boggling people, successful, doing wonders in their chosen professions, but at the same time, social activists in their own being. By means of this small experiment, I have been able to bust the biggest myth surrounding social activism or the world of charity, the look of a social activist. And I think it's the look that keeps most people away from this field. Good afternoon, my name is Dr. Geetanjali Chopra. I'm a social activist by choice, by profession, and I absolutely love what I do. Currently, I'm the founder-president of a Delhi-based NGO having 20 centers across Delhi NCR and impacting the lives of 5,000 people on a daily basis. But something about this field makes me very sad. It completely disheartens me to see that young people with lots of potential don't even consider social activism or charity to be something that they want to be a part of. And after deep thought, I think the reason is the myths that surround this area. There are loads and loads of myths which keep people, young people like you, away from even venturing close to something that can impact your lives and the lives of so many other people. I'm here today to bust these myths and to do something very special. Ignite your social bone. I've already busted the first myth, that is the look of a social worker. The second most pertinent myth is the age. Most people feel that when you transition from grey to white, that's the time you step into the charity world. You know, all your lives you work to get your education, you get a good job, you earn lots of money, you get married, you pop a few children, and then you work a little more harder, and by the time your children are ready to get married and they pop out children, that's the time you will think of social work. Let me surprise you a bit. I don't have grandchildren or children. In fact, I just got married. But I'm a social worker. I'm a social activist. Jokes apart, social activism for me began at the age of 9. Yes, I was all of 9 when I started doing social work, but because of the same myths that you are facing today, the same myths, the same problems kept me away from thinking that I belong to this world. When I was 9 years old, I went to a school for visually impaired children with my grandfather to celebrate my birthday. While I was happy, children were singing for me, and I was distributing cake, this one little kid just tugged at my pant, looked at me and said, "Didi, mera birthday kab hota hai?" And that question just sent me into a frenzy. I was like, birthdays are something we take for granted. It's my birthday, I want a new dress. It's my birthday, I want a party. And here's this one little kid who doesn't even know when her birthday is. That point of time, I promised myself, someday I will do something for children like her. Today, it gives me immense pride to tell you, to share with you, that on a monthly basis, my organization and I collectively celebrate the birthdays of visually impaired children on a monthly basis. Each month, visually impaired children are given a new ray of hope. They enjoy life the way you and I enjoy life, and it's a whole new world for them. It did take me a whole lot of years from 9 to 35 when I actually gave implementation to the idea of being a social worker or a social activist. But I don't want you guys to make the same mistake that I made and lose out on so many precious years. So age has absolutely nothing to do with social activism. Anyone, in fact, every one of you in this room listening to me today has the potential to be a social activist. If it's not the look and it's not the age, what is it that prevents you? You'd probably think, like most other people, that you need solid education to get into social activism. A degree in development studies, NGO management, relief work, blah, blah, blah. No, nothing of that sort. If you have a look at my CV, you'll see my first degree in journalism, my second degree, which is my master's in international politics. I went on to do an MPhil and a PhD in human rights, peace building, international organization. Nowhere did I study relief work, NGO management, nothing. And I'm not the only one. If you look to the next slide, I'm going to introduce you to three very interesting people. These are the presidents and the CEOs of leading charities of the world. If you look at the man right, towards the right, he's the director of water charity. Do you know what he used to do before that? Promote MTV. And today, he is the director of a leading charity. So there goes the third myth, right? Education does not have anything to do with social activism. So on the outset, these three parameters which stop you, these three deterrents, have been busted. If age, looks, and education don't matter, why do you think you're not a social activist today? Simply because most people believe that social activism is for villas. People who don't have anything else to do in life, chalo bhai NGO khol lo. Right? A lot of people think like that. Let me take you to three phases of my life over a period of, say, 15 years. 2005, I find myself in Lahore, Pakistan. I've just been given an award to write a book on arms control and disarmament. 2011, I'm extremely happy. I've completed my PhD and I've landed myself into a super prestigious job at one of the leading institutes, think tanks, not just of India but of Asia, Center for Policy Research. Extremely happy. 2014, I'm finishing a piece for the Oxford Handbook on Indian National Security. I have a chapter on India and its role in UN peacekeeping. 2014 again, I give it all up to start my own organization. I don't think I was vela, rather I think I was overworked. I was at the peak of my career. I was proving myself to be a budding academic, making my name, flying all over the world, attending conferences, giving talks, teaching. But yet, I chose consciously to give that up to start something else. So vela and social activism do not go hand in hand. But yes, this decision of mine did raise a lot of eyebrows. I did receive a lot of flack. What is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Matlab, why? You know, out of all the things in the world, why would you choose to start an NGO? There's no growth, there's no potential, there's nothing. You're ruining your life. When I started in 2014, I started single-handedly. Today, in less than 5 years, I have a team of 20 committed full-time individuals, over 150 volunteers, 20 centers, working across 9 pressing issues, and 5,000 people whom we deal and impact on a daily basis. If this is not growth, I don't know what growth is. People say life of an NGO worker or of a social activist is monotonous. there's no fun being a social activist. Let me take you to a ride through my life, just one day in my life. 4 days out of 7, I wake up with a frantic call. दीदी दूध नहीं आया. दीदी ये बच्चे स्कूल के लिए तैयार नहीं हुए. दीदी बस नहीं आई. दीदी. Once I settle that issue, I move on to having my glass of milk and I start doing what is my daily routine. I get to office, I have a meeting with the department heads of various department heads. Then we plan out our field visits. The field is full of a lot of fun. It could be playing with some kids, it could be reprimanding others, or it could be listening to an auntie who's having a serious issue, pitching to corporates for more CSR support, attending functions, giving inspirational talks, name it. Sometimes the day would also include listening to a colleague with a broken heart and then winding up the day with colleagues, friends, families over a drink, as normal as any one of us, right? Again, I wish my day was monotonous, but it's a roller coaster ride, a ride I would not give up for anybody or anything ever.
It's not boring, it's not monotonous, you grow. What next? The biggest question of it all. Where is the money? When you don't have money, why do you have to work so much? You don't get anything out of it. I think this is one of the most, it is the biggest myth and the so-called belief that keeps people away. Let me tell you, there is money in the social sector. It might not be as big as the corporate sector, but you can get anything and everything within this sector as well. If you're just a field worker, you can make anything from 10,000 to 12,000 rupees a month. If you move up the ladder and you at some point head an organization, an international organization, you could easily touch the 7 to 8 digit bracket.
So when people say there's no there's no money in the social sector, I say you don't know the social sector. Money is also there. So now, what is it that actually keeps you away? I think this is not just one factor. If you've if I've addressed all the other factors, there are 3 interlinked factors which still stop you from being a social activist. And the biggest one is, I don't matter. I mean, if I do something, it won't affect anyone. I need to belong to an institute. I need to do something big for me to matter. Can I tell you something? You do. Not just in the world of social activism. You matter in everything. Once you make up your mind to do something, the sky is the limit. I'm going to share a very personal story with you and tell you why you matter. Remember the school for visually impaired I told you about, where I used to go as a child to celebrate my birthdays? Right after my grandfather passed away, I went back to that school just to spend some time with his children, and I happened to ask them, is there something I can do for you? And this one little kid looked up at me and said, Didi, mujhe holi khelni hai. I was flabbergasted. I said, visually impaired, can't see, can't even walk without support, and she wants to play holi. So I said, okay, and I left that place with that question in my mind. And I thought to myself, if this child or this group of children have voiced this particular wish to me and not to anybody else, maybe there is something I can do. I go back to my office, which was the Center for Policy Research at that point of time, and I just take an email and I shoot it out to a few colleagues. And I'm like, this thing happened and this group of children want to play holi. What do you think we can do? I remember I'd gone for a meeting. When I came back, my desk was flooded with envelopes. In each of those envelopes there was money, minuscule amounts, 11 rupees, 21 rupees, 51 rupees. And there was one message, go for it, we're with you. And I thought, go for what? All I said was that I wanted to play holi, or I wanted to facilitate holi for these children, and this is what's come out of it. Long story short, that one email has led me to be here today. That one email led me to play holi. And let me tell you, that was the best holi of my life. And not just my life, even these children's life. If you can have a quick look, these are all visually impaired Holi, and I'm sure none of you could have imagined blind children, 100% visually impaired children playing Holi. One thing led to the other, and right after, in a month's time, I had a registered NGO. The beginning for me was an email. What will be the beginning for you?
I do see a few surprised faces in the audience, and I know some of you might be convinced and would be willing to discover your social bone. But some of you, there's one lingering question that's still stopping you, that still is a big, big deterrent for you. And that question is, what is in it for me? What will I get?
You know, if I decide to be socially active in addition to whatever career stream I choose, or if I choose this as a career stream, what is it that I will get? Well, I'm not an astrologer, so I can't really tell you how successful you would be as a social activist, how well you will be received, in which field would you make that difference. But yes, I can tell you one thing for sure. As a person, as an individual, you will feel blessed. You will feel so good about yourself, it's next to nothing. When you feel that you have made a difference in somebody's life, the feeling cannot be matched by anything in this world. So if you give it a shot, if you want to experience that feeling. The reason why I say this with so much conviction is because I experience it every single day. You know, when tears turn into smiles because of something you do, when a blind child recognizes you by your touch, when a woman who's been beaten by her own daughter treats you as her daughter, gives you the love and brands you as the daughter she never had, the feeling is absolutely mind-boggling. The rewards, motivations, inspirations come at every stage. And I'm sure if you take that one step forward, you would get them too. I would have lots and lots of stories to share with you in terms of inspiration, but I'm going to leave you with one very touching story. It's about one of my very favorite kids called Ashna. Ashna is all of 6 years.
She's one of my favorite street children residing in one of the homes I run. And every time I go to that house, to the home for street children, this little kid always just is all over me. So on one particular day, I was a little upset with some kids who were up to some mischief, and I was actually scolding them. And suddenly they start laughing. And I was like, I don't think I said anything funny. And they just pointed like that towards my backside. So I turned around and I'm like this because I'm upset. And I see Ashna right there, right in front of me, looking up at me. And I'm like, what do you think you're doing? Kya kar rahe ho?
And her answer was, मैं आप बनना चाहती हूँ. I want to be you. If I do what you do, I will become you. This story then and today still gives me goosebumps and the inspiration and the motivation to carry on. I can in fact say that this is my social backbone. With all these myths busted and an introduction, insider's view to the social world, I hope each one of you here will discover your social bone now sooner than later. Thank you.